Cindy Lee Cassell, I have been so excited about this conversation. What you do is spectacular. Blending in your experience with therapy, bringing in the spirituality, which is so important. You are a painter, you're a life coach. Earlier we were talking about feelings, and there is this stigma that don't feel your feelings.
Right.
I loved what you were saying about that. If we do not acknowledge our feelings, how are we ever going to grow and build that foundation to rise up, which is what you're all about, helping people elevate in life. So let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Feel our feelings. And I love what you said about them being like our friend.
Yeah. Feelings, I always tell people, don't put, labels on feelings. They're our friends. They're here to tell us something. They have a message for us.
Mm-hmm.
And so when our feelings come up, especially the negative feelings, those ones that are like anger or depression or anxiety, those are really just information.
Yeah.
So if we cannot judge those, but pay attention to them, then we can really learn something and know how to, move with that information. That they're really there for spiritual gifts, to help teach us something.
Yes.
And so if we can really pay attention to those, and we have to be able to tolerate and relax into the feelings that don't feel so well. We tend to run for them instead of just lean into them. So part of it is just learning to create a tolerance for sitting with those feelings until you can figure out what the message is.
I always say they are messengers.
Yeah.
They are teachers. So what would you, when you have a client, say I'm your client,
Right.
and I know this from experience because I did run from my feelings. I numbed them. Drugs,
Sure.
alcohol, overworking, over-exercising, being so consumed with my appearance and appearing perfect,
Right.
building up my career, the resume and all of that.
Right.
When you start off and someone really is ready to do the work, but they're having a hard time feeling the feelings, what is that first step that someone can acknowledge, sit in it, and do something constructive to manage? And always, we can have a whole nother conversation about codependency because you're trying to manage everybody else's emotions,
Right.
and you don't know how to manage your own. What is that first step for someone to embrace their feeling, that uncomfortable feeling, and then move past it, like you said?
Right. Well, I think the first thing is to just embrace it and don't feel afraid of it.
Afraid.
Fear. Don't feel the shame about not having it all together. We all experience these things. We're human. And if we're not human, then, we expect or think that we should be more than what we are able to deal with. And it changes from day to day. But the first thing is really just acknowledging the amount of impact that our emotions or what we're experiencing is having on our lives. Are you not functioning well in the daily life? Are you so anxious that you're not producing well at work? Are you having interpersonal problems with your relationships, either at work or love relationships or with your family, and we can acknowledge the impact that that's having on us, and then know that there's support, that we can go and have a safe place to start unraveling and exploring what is really underneath it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you tie in spirituality with the therapy, we feel the feelings. It could be something internal. We can work ourselves up, or just the reaction of something external, a boss at work or a spat with your partner at home, your kids are going crazy. How does spirituality tie in to feelings?
Well, we are, the spirit is on that right side of our brain. It is connected directly to our feelings. And so our spirituality and understanding our spirit and what it's there to teach us is a big key to connecting with our behaviors, our thoughts. I don't think you can separate it. But a lot of people are not aware that we are I believe we're spiritual beings having this human experience, right? And so we have to learn how to straddle both worlds of the spiritual feeling side, the intuitive side, the connection to all, to these daily struggles that we have here on earth.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's like you can't really separate. The reason I became a spiritual director is because it's one of the major tools that people can use to deal with this life.
Yes.
And so in my spiritual direction as well, I combine all of that so that you can help people navigate the spirit part of themselves and the human part of themselves. And then dealing with how is God or the universe or however they, define spirit for them, how they can bring these two in harmony. Because that's where the balance. I always say the golden egg really in life is creating this beautiful balance in life.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that is creating the spirituality. So I'm super excited to wake that up in people.
And they don't have to hit rock bottom. So I mentioned the ways that I would run from my feelings, shove them down, eat them down, drink them down, like most people do. People are over scrolling now. I had a client say that she realized that scrolling Instagram was her whoopee. Yeah. Like a blanket. She was like, that was my little, and it blew her mind to be in her late 40s, realizing that whoopee transferred to something, if you don't deal with whatever you're trying to run from, can just transfer. Right. So I realized when I had that rock bottom moment, that was the first time someone had given me the book, The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. And I'm an artist as well. Awesome. And so all through my 20s, when I had not dealt with this trauma in my teens, I couldn't draw a stick figure. When I had gotten an art scholarship to college, art was my whole life. Right. I was that little kid drawing on the floor of my bedroom for hours by myself. So I realized just from the morning pages that she recommends that you do in doing the brain dump that I was spiritually disconnected. I was completely disconnected from my spirit. So I was 30 years old, realizing that from 16 to 30, completely disconnected.
And it can happen so easily.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be that rock bottom moment.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
And I think you bring up a good point. The challenges with society today is this instantaneous scrolling, the
dopamine
all the media,
hit.
The dopamine hit, and it's a way that people can escape.
Yeah.
Or they say they're decompressing, but a lot of times they're really disconnecting. Yeah. And instead of learning how to really bring themselves back to their center, back to their heart, I always try to tell people, put down your phone when you get off of work. Sit with a hot cup of tea in the backyard if you can. Sit in your favorite, sweater or blanket and just be with your thoughts. Just allow yourself to come back and do a review, like how did today go? How did I allow myself to, what was the good things about today? How do I feel about myself? What were the challenges? How am I feeling in my body? Is there any challenges that I need to really work through because of what happened today? And so instead of escaping, we need to turn back towards ourselves, turn back into making it comfortable to be within our own body, our own space, our own mind, and not be afraid of that and embrace that so that we can come back to that center and that balance.
Escape is such a great word, and I'm guilty of it. I catch myself and I always say that, well, I have to work on my phone. The phone is such a big part of my mission, and I call it my mission field. It's like I'm a fisher of women and wanting to connect and share my message with them. But it is such an escapism. And
it can be.
When you look, what you just mentioned about sitting with yourself, it's a daily assessment that I think people don't want to make. It's assessing, how did I do today? I always recommend women at the end of the week, it's Friday, today is Friday. What wins did you have? Yeah. And I always say, what crown up moments when you didn't take your crown off for anyone and you stood boldly in your power and you advocated for yourself and you spoke up and celebrate those wins. It could be something very small. It could have been something like, oh, I didn't go to the phone this evening And not even the bottle of wine. I sat with a cup of tea and assessed my day and gave myself a pat on the back.
Right. We don't do that enough.
No.
Especially as women, we don't sit there and really allow ourselves to celebrate our wins, celebrate those triumphal moments. It's all part of our healing process.
Yeah.
It's all a part of our development, our spiritual development, is the awareness, self-awareness, bringing a high level of consciousness to what am I doing today? And if we don't reground ourselves and we don't allow that as a ritual in our daily lives, then we can truly just disconnect and we don't even know we're doing it.
Right.
You know, so awareness, and I think forming rituals, forming patterns of behavior that can keep us on track, so that we can go out and do all the things. We can do the phone and we can do the work and we can serve people and do all of the things. But without that recentering back to where we are, then we lose ourselves in the process.
Absolutely. I call it plugging in. I have to do this. They've heard me say this a million times. In the morning, I need a lot of God and a lot of coffee. Because I was back then prescribed the cocktail of antidepressants, then the anti-anxiety medication that the antidepressant gave me more anxiety, and then Ambien to go to sleep. And then I was still abusing drugs and alcohol recreationally. So doing life without any of that now, I have to have those morning practices where I call it, it's your power. It's your power VIP session with God and yourself. And then, like you said, you can go out and navigate the world. What I always say, it's like Neo in Matrix when he's like getting the, and it's that slow motion where he's bending back, and women can roll with the punches. So the thing that I love about what you're doing is that science of the mind and the spirituality, so that is I hear harmony in what you're saying. There's a harmony there, that if that power plug, you're disconnected, you are not going to be able to navigate all of the things coming at you, or inside your home with little children, if you're in that season of raising kids and going into the workplace, navigating, I say peopling with the people. Peopling with people is difficult.
It's exhausting.
So,
it can be.
Yeah. So if you're disconnected and you don't have the harmony, so we need a guide. Often people can't do this on their own. I know I was given a book that led me to get therapy, to get coaching and reach out. So in what you do so beautifully, even the word self-awareness, people don't know what that is. I mean, you hear the words put together, but to actually practice it, what is the first step on the journey with you that when you say acknowledge, feel the feelings, and raise the self-awareness? How do you get someone started on that journey?
I love the technique of journaling. Not everybody's a journaler, so I always allow them to do a variety of different things. Some people don't like to sit with their thoughts and write it out. You can do a creative journal. You can do doodles, you can do collages, you can do a lot of different things, but it's about sitting down with your life, with issues that are coming up for you, and allowing yourself to hear and quiet the mind. I love prayer, I love meditation, I love soft music, I love candles. I love, so setting an environment that can create that. But when I work with people, I always ask them, well, how are you feeling? And if people can't describe that because they are not connected with the feelings, then I will go into different exercises that can get them in touch with those feelings. I incorporate creativity as well. So really doing a variety of different exercises with clients that allow them to tap into, what is it that your spirit is speaking of, and where is the pain point. So the first step is really allowing yourself to really touch base with yourself, and it's learning how to sit still. That was something I wasn't good at. in my earlier life, I was doing the outrunning. And when I learned how to start meditating and sitting still first, anyone that meditates understands that when you get into that flow, and for me, because I'm an artist, when I'm at my easel, again, that's a very meditative process. And so when we can just sit, even people that have a hard time really having trouble sitting, then I say, let's do some Tai Chi, or let's just create some movement, walking in nature.
Yes, walking,
praying,
the moving meditation.
The moving meditation.
Yeah.
So, you have to start with where people are at.
Right.
Where is their level of tolerance to sit with discomfort? And then you learn how to move with them and give them suggestions that they can tolerate. So we're always looking to how to keep them within the window of tolerance that they have, but then expanding it just a little bit at a time, so that they can start growing and expanding in that area. And then, when I first start working with people, they can't sit still, they don't know what they feel. A few months down the road, they're sitting, they can articulate, they're creating, they're moving that energy through them. They know where these pain points were from, and we start going to work on them.
Oh, that's so good.
It's really freeing. It's wonderful, because I always tell people, you can't afford not to take the time to do this, because you will pay in your health.
Yes.
You will pay in your mental health. You will pay in your relationships. You will pay with just the energy leakage that happens during, the not paying attention. And so it's super important that people learn that they can free themselves. It doesn't have to be this hard.
They have the key. That's what it always felt like.
They do.
We have the key.
But sometimes they need they need the ideas of how to get the key and how to utilize the key, or they don't even know they're holding the key.
Yes, it's so true.
So many people, I think, are not aware of the thoughts create everything. And the great thing about that is that you don't need to have anything change in your outer world. And you can change everything right here.
Yes.
And then things in your outer world will start changing, because it's from the inside out.
Yes.
Is where the key is.
It's when you use the word freeing, freedom is everything. And I know in my own life and just seeing other women, the bondage, the kind of mental slavery that we're living in. And so with creativity and movement, you're talking about the overall wellness.
Right.
So do you believe, this is a conversation I've been having a lot, the autoimmune disorders are rampant. Right. I don't know if it's because we have social media and we have different health gurus and doctors talking about it, but I am just hearing more and more younger women, the endocrine disruptors to the trauma that isn't healed, the nervous system dysregulation.
Right.
Can you speak on that, just with your work and the healing, the autoimmune disorders, and the when you said mental health or your physical health? I just believe my mother-in-law had a really severe autoimmune disorder. My mom has an autoimmune disorder. I know both of their backstories, unhealed trauma.
Right.
What can we do to educate people? Educate women especially, because I know autoimmune disorders are more prevalent in women.
Absolutely. One of my passions is to start educating people on this. We have everybody in the world, if you go through life, will collect what I call these mini or micro traumas along the way. It doesn't mean that they have to have a life and death encounter, but being bullied on the playground, or watching mom and dad fight, or being made fun of, or switching schools a lot when you're young and having to fit in over and over again. These are traumatic little experiences that get stored in our neural network.
Yeah.
And if we don't address those and The issue is that many people don't know that they are storing these, and they become, over time, solidified into belief systems, and oftentimes negative belief systems about ourselves, about the world, and how we fit into the world. And so these negative beliefs are where the power to unlock some of this comes from. And so some of the work that I am doing is helping people understand that these experiences, if they were powerful, and most people will start completely remembering these things in detail 40 years later.
Yeah.
That's a powerful trauma experience. And so when we can validate that, address that, and then with this new technique of EMDR, it has revolutionized my practice, because people are now able to identify exact experiences, exact memories that are trapped in the prefrontal cortex of our mind, and we can go in there and pinpoint those, identify those, and then help them reprocess. The reason that people get anxiety and depression and all the things that you talked about, PTSD, is because there was the one common thing, whether it's a huge trauma or a small trauma, is that there was no way out.
Yeah.
When you're a child, you can't leave the home and take care of yourself.
Right.
If they're witnessing things in the home or feeling the anxiety of the home, you can't not unhear that. And so when we can learn how to go towards the actual memories, and then in EMDR, what we're doing is we're able to neutralize through bilateral stimulation, which means we access the memory, and then we start stimulating the right and the left side of the brain, back and forth. And it helps them move through that process very quickly, and they can do it without even talking about it.
Wow.
That's the beautiful part of that. They don't have to go back into the trauma, but they can reprocess it, and it helps it actually integrate into a more, integratable way in our neural network system in our brain, that we can actually take, and then it starts neutralizing that reactiveness. And so they don't have to keep reliving it. What was once a very traumatic and, emotionally, escalating event, they can go back and they can talk about it, they can remember it, but they don't have any emotional charge over it anymore.
Yes.
And then once that's neutralized, we can go back and do the same bilateral stimulation and actually rewire a positive cognition. The question would be, what would you rather believe about yourself instead?
Yeah.
And so we then get to rewire that into the brain. And so they all of a sudden have a completely different viewpoint of themselves about these experiences, and people are moving beyond what talk therapy has been able to do.
Right.
And it's pretty exciting.
It's so exciting. It's almost like a rebirth.
It is.
Because you're the same person, but being able to have, as you're talking, it's as if I can see your brain has all of this new space. Because it has all this space has been taken up by the traumas, or your amygdala is, I don't even know the right words for it, but I know the amygdala stores that as well.
The hippocampus, all of that.
It's all taken up space, and it's as if you have just all of this new playground, or I know the reference to your mind being like a beautiful flower garden. And I always picture it as I was healing that, God is uprooting all of these negative things. And so those neural pathways and planting new seeds.
Right.
And what are you doing every single day to water that? Is it the journaling? Is it your moving meditation and your walk, your visualizations, the affirmations? I'm a big believer of affirming yourself, remothering yourself. And I pictured that as, you said, having a cup of tea, and as you're assessing the day instead of scrolling. And I thought that is a beautiful time to, maybe someone didn't have a mom that really cared about, how was your day, honey? when you
Right.
came home from school
Oh, yeah.
because there was chaos in the house, but just having that process with yourself and remothering yourself or being your own best friend and saying, hey, how did your day go?
Right.
But you're talking to yourself. So you now have this space to actually do that. So that means that with this new passion and purpose that you help people get
Right.
to in that higher level of self-actualization,
Yeah.
how fun.
It's so much
That's
fun.
when the fun starts.
It's so much fun.
Yeah.
And it's so exciting to see people transform. It
Yeah.
is like a flower, like a tiny rosebud just opening up. And it is, it's just so exciting. That's
It
what I
is.
love about my work. It's so exciting because you get to see the transformation and it's there. It's there for everyone. It really is. People go, well, I don't think I can do this. I don't know if I'm going to really, I don't even have any memories of these things. And I said, just trust me.
Yeah.
And they go through the process and things start floating up and people are like, I haven't thought of that since I was 12.
Exactly.
And
it's taken up so much space in their brain.
There's so much stuff that they're unloading. They feel lighter. They don't respond to the world in the same way.
Right. Well, they actually, what I love to say is that you learn to, with the self-awareness, managing your emotions and the toolbox that you give them, you're able to respond instead of being just in constant reaction to the world.
Right.
You can actually pause. What am I feeling about this?
Right.
How can I adjust, respond, pause? The power of the pause is huge. For me, for somebody that was very just did not roll with the punches at all. So the exciting part with newfound things that they maybe never even allowed themselves to explore that they wanted to do because the spirit is disconnected, the brain and the spirit is filled with all of this, like it's a loop. A daily loop.
It is.
Right? When you just replay these negative thoughts.
So EMDR is a method of therapy that we can now use to actually help to relieve the trauma and go in and through bilateral stimulation, stimulating the right and the left side of the brain, we can go in and we can create we can take these traumatic experiences off the nervous system. And so it is an 8-phase modality. We do a lot of history taking at the beginning. Then we actually we start identifying these most recent examples. Say somebody is wanting to take care of anxiety. They're having a lot of anxiety in their life. We will identify these recent examples of how that's showing up in their life. And then we will start identifying past experiences as early as they can remember with where did the roots for the anxiety come from? What were these anxiety producing moments that felt really big to you in the past? Once we identify that, then those are the memories that we will target to reprocess. And so once we identify that, we'll go in and we'll create, we allow them to understand how that experience, the negative beliefs, how it affected them. What were the negative beliefs they were believing about themselves? What was the worst part of that experience? And what would they rather believe about themselves instead? And so when we bring up this light bar, I do it through eye movement because I do a lot of my work remotely, but you can also do it audibly. You can also do it tactilely. And so it's just about switching your focus from the left to the right side of the brain. It accesses the part of that amygdala where it's stored, and it can actually start moving rapidly. So all we do is we say, I want you to hold this memory in your mind, bring a picture up of your mind of what that represents and what that feeling was when you were experiencing it. And then at the same time, I want you to hold the negative belief, such as maybe I'm helpless. And I want you to just follow the green dots in this light bar, and I'll run it. And they will just hold those two things, and the light starts running and it starts stimulating their brain. And all of a sudden, these memories, these sensations, these awarenesses, these insights start coming up to the surface. And then I will go for so long, maybe 20 passes, and then we stop and I'd say, what are you noticing now? and they'll share what they're noticing. And I'll say, okay, focus on that. And we start running the lights again.
Wow.
And then as it continues, then they still keep going until there is no change, till they don't notice anything else. Then we know it's redone. And we always take a scale. On a scale from 0 to 10, how disturbing does that feel to you? And at the beginning of the therapy, it may be a 10. And then as I continue each of these sessions, I'll say, again, where are you on the scale for disturbance? And you'll start seeing it come down and we go till it's a neutral, where that doesn't create any emotional disturbance in me at all.
Wow.
And then we know we're done with reprocessing. Then we do the installation of the positive cognition, or what would I rather believe about myself instead. And the same way the lights run, it works in reverse. So it then empowers that, and it starts transplanting that new belief in the brain.
Wow.
And we keep running it back and forth, and it gets stronger and stronger, and we take a scale on that. How believable do you feel this positive affirmation is? And a lot of times when they start, it's really kind of low, because they don't really quite believe that yet. We won't stop until we get to a solid, at that scale, a 7, which is the most. And then they come out, and then we know we're done. Then we check the body. I want you to hold that positive belief when you say, yeah, I really believe this. Then I go and do a cellular check. I'll say, I want you to hold this positive cognition in your mind. And I want you to do a body scan, which is I want you to scan your entire body, moving from the top of your head all the way down to the bottom of your feet while you hold that positive affirmation. And look for any signs of anxiety, any unusual or uncomfortable sensation in your body. If there is any sensation at all that is uncomfortable, then we have them focus on that part of the body and we run the lights again. Wow. Because these things get stored cellularly in our body. And so we move all the way through the process until they are clear from their belief system all the way down to their body, and it's just transformative.
You use the word neutralize, and I'm just picturing as you're talking, like it transmutes.
It does.
It transmutes from this thing that's held them captive or ruled their life, transmutes it into power, the pain to power.
Exactly.
So then, to me, it's like that juicy, amazing, the fun part where you can take someone to fully, what I call fullness, the fullness of life, what they're called to do. They're living with more purpose.
Right.
So talk on that.
Yeah.
I know you have you're working on a program.
Yeah. I'm developing a program that kind of helps people move through this process all the way through, that they can do on their own or use, and do it in conjunction with therapy or life coaching. So absolutely. So you have to start with the renewal of the mind. The problem is that we hold these experiences in our mind and we believe lies about ourselves. It's the lies about ourselves that I'm not good enough, I'm unlovable, I don't belong, or I'm helpless, that literally captivates and holds people captive. And so once we go to work on straightening out and getting rid of the distortions, and then working to restore the mind, then we can, they're in a different place to start filling that vessel back up. And then we go to another stage, which is self-love. How do I nurture my heart? And how do I give myself love? What does that look like? Some people have to learn how to love themselves. It sounds so contrite, but it's so true.
So true.
Especially if you've not had that modeled for you. And so we can learn how to nurture, love ourselves, build our self-esteem from the ground up. Then once we are filled, then we go to another phase of looking at creating a grander vision for your life. We're not back where we were before. So it's like a whole new you. So what can you envision in your life now? And we start dreaming. And we start moving from, at first I talk about, we have to work with the innovation, the imagination, and the inspiration. So there's a whole phase where we start letting people go play and experience and start feeling their gifts, acknowledging their gifts, experimenting with what they like, what feeds them, what elevates them, what makes them feel whole and peaceful, and all the things that they want to bring into their life. And we identify then through them what, through that process, really who they are.
What I call the true you.
And whose they are. Yes.
The true you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we start bridging the heart with the spirit.
Yeah.
And so that fourth phase that I then will bring them through is learning how to align your heart and your soul.
Yeah.
And really creating a plan. How do we then move towards, how do we build and become all that God had created us to be? And so it moves them to this divine place of, this is what I was born to do.
Yeah.
And that's where you get the passion and the purpose. And that is so amazing. It's so exciting. It's so exhilarating when people can get to that level of their spiritual essence of what they're here to do. And then the whole world changes around them. And then they start being this light that goes out into the world, that it can just then ripple in their whole sphere of influence, which is really pretty exciting. And there's no more depression, no more anxiety, no more self-doubt.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that we don't have those things that will trigger at times, but that they know where they're going. And that's pretty exciting. That's when we get to the self-actualization.
Right. And that's what gets you out of bed in the morning.
Exactly.
Yes. I mean, I've lived on and off depression for years, and I know that feeling of doom and gloom, and you wake up and you hadn't had a drop of alcohol the night before, but you just feel hung over from the mind crank and the anxiety. The over-cognition wears you out, the overthinking.
Right.
So to have the freedom, to me, this is part of your contribution to the world, because the more healed everyone is, I mean, on a spiritual level, there's so much oppression trying to keep everyone depressed and anxious, so that they can't rise up to that level to bring more light.
Absolutely.
So what you're doing, in a nutshell, what I do with women, it's so similar, is truly healing the world. It is healing the world.
It is about, healed people heal people.
Yes. Yes.
Hurt people hurt people.
Yes.
And so it is so important that we all take responsibility to start on our healing journey, to get healed, so that we can pass this down generationally, and this world can change. We can unify. We don't have to be divided from ourselves, from each other, from one another. It is all about passing on the love, the humanity, loving and embracing one another. We need this so badly.
Yes, and it's so beautiful to see and witness. I'm sure you notice it too. It's that if you're on Zoom and they come back for the next session and they've got that twinkle in their eye. Yeah. It's like I can see it.
Yes, the light. I call it the light bulb. The
yes,
light bulb's
it's like
off,
the light is coming through their eyes. Their eyes start changing. The timbre and tone of their voice sounds more powerful.
Right.
It has excitement. It has energy. Energy is everything. I can just feel, even through Zoom, you can feel their energy.
Absolutely.
So what is this? Is this a 60-day program, a 90-day program?
It is a 12-week program. So it is so we have the 4 phases. Each phase has 3 classes in it. And in each class, I actually take people through a therapeutic practice, I take them through a creative practice, and I take them through a spiritual practice. And so we get to integrate all 3 in each phase, and we keep learning over and over through repetition, so it actually gets solidified in our spirit towards the end of it.
The repetition is everything.
Right.
Can't just do it one time.
Energy.
Cannot do it one time.
Right.
So do you have them do the creative part with getting vision for their life? Do you do vision boards and mood boards and have them do that?
All of that. Yeah, I will take the creativity. So I bring in my training as this professional artist to bring in everything from music to all kinds of, writing to painting to using any kind of technique, because everybody's different, right? But I'm a dancer as well. I love people to move, but to use all of the creative gifts. And so I try to get a variety where it hits all of those things for people, because people learn in different ways, but they're going to resonate. But the vision boards, and it's about really proposing questions that get them to think outside of the box and to elevate their thinking in, tapping into the spiritual aspects of who they are, not just the mental aspects of who they are. We're human beings, and it's so complex and so diverse, and there's so many parts. It's a layering process, and so to embrace all of that. But yes, I bring in all of these different modalities, and then as spiritual, I'm a spiritual director as well. And so in those, we will look at different spiritual practices, prayer, different kinds of prayer, different kinds of meditation, different kinds of readings, spiritual readings from different perspectives. Where are they plugged into community? How are they serving? So through study and contemplation and action, those are the spiritual disciplines, and we kind of look at all of those as well.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
We've heard the term coming home to yourself.
Right.
So there's that aspect of it, and it's just this childlike taking people back. So when I had trauma hit and art was my life, and then all of the things that you did that lit you up.
Right.
I always tell women that. I'm like, what do you do that lights you up?
Right.
Get started there, where you don't have to pee, you're not hungry, you
You're
get
in
into
the
flow.
Yeah.
You're so into flow that you lose track of time. And it is those things often that we love to do as a kid, and kids just dance around and they create. I'm a tomboy. I would go mudding. We're making mud pies, getting your hands dirty, getting out in nature, painting, all of those different things. That the adulting plus the depression plus the unhealed trauma plus the negative beliefs, the lies that we're speaking over ourselves or were spoken over us. Turn us into people that we don't even recognize anymore, and just live what I always say, what mask do you need me to wear today?
Right.
And so we get back, you're taking people back to their true essence, their authentic self.
We come out into this world beautiful, pure beings. And through the process of life, some of that starts getting etched away. And that is the part of the human experience. And part of, I think, the journey as our human existence is to get back and return to the beauty and the purity and the authenticity and the expression of a simple child. It's beautiful. It's very powerful. And so we have a lot of unlearning to do.
Yes.
And so it's about, we spend our life learning, and then when we start becoming more aware, we then start choosing and picking, what do we need to unlearn? So that we can find that true balance and really come back to that creative, beautiful, spiritual being that we are.
Inspiration means in spirit. So that goes back to being disconnected. And
same thing.
So crazy to go so many years not doing the things that in your spirit as a child you completely forget, you put on the back burner. So what you're doing, it truly is helping to heal the world. So thank you for that contribution.
It's my privilege, and it's such a joy. Life needs to be fun. Life needs to be joyful. Life needs to be, beautiful and peaceful. And you don't have to. You can be free and return to all of that. So thank you for the work that you do. It's been a beautiful process to watch all the work that you're doing, and it's just so needed. I'm excited to be part of it.
So when you're talking about EMDR and the modalities, I wanted to ask one more question. So cognitive behavioral talk therapy, this is so good for people that it actually, years and years of talking about the same things over and over just keeps them it works for a lot of people, and then they move on. They've gotten it out because they buried it. They haven't talked about it.
Right.
That works for many people, but this other modality that you're using, it just seems so powerful and quicker.
It is.
So people can move on and get to that place of purpose and fulfillment. We're all meant to, people think, oh, well, I don't have a purpose. I don't know living a purposeful life every single day on purpose is living your purpose.
Awesome.
I tell some women, I'm like, you know what? The human being, what you were, the essence, we've become human doings.
Right.
What if you just go in your beautiful light and energy and you don't have to do a thing? You don't have to say a thing.
Right.
You don't have to perform.
Right.
Just your presence.
Right. Right. Exactly.
Just your presence
is
helping to heal someone just by sitting with them.
Right. People need to know that they have a light and a beauty inside of them. It's already there. They don't have to go find it. They just need to be aware of it and let it come through.
Yeah. Gotta unleash it.
Yeah. Let it free.
Yeah.
Let it go.
Yes.
And so it's really, really powerful. And yes, EMDR is a lot quicker.
Yeah.
I love cognitive behavioral therapy. It's what we did, and it's both of these modalities are scientific based, and they both work. The problem with cognitive behavioral therapy is that it takes a lot of consciousness and consistent consciousness of an individual that can hold all the tools to rewire their own brain. In EMDR, you have a facilitator that helps you, and this bilateral stimulation, it's really powerful. It really does help to move and integrate, and it's just a miracle. When we had the training on it, I was working on my own trauma, and it was amazing.
Yeah.
Something that I couldn't shake. I knew the story, but sometimes the story, kind of retelling it, only reinforces the belief system.
Yes.
So what's neat about this EMDR is that it goes in and actually helps to rewire as we're doing it. And people don't have to stop and think in the middle of their day, okay, what did I just think? And how does that make me feel? And how do I turn that around? You know, we do the work in real time right there. And then we seal that up and people can go off and close that door and go on to their work or whatever they need to do. And then we pick back up the next session right where we left off. So we can open and close that door, but it's a continuation. Yeah. Now this therapy is kind of a weekly therapy because we want to have access and keep that process going. So it's not something you do occasionally or once a month. It is something a lot deeper and it is more intense, but it's well worth it.
So you're helping them get rid of the lies, step into that truth, and rewrite a new story.
Yes.
Live with purpose, raise the entire light and energy of the world, and that's exactly what we need. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I gleaned from your wisdom and cannot wait for everyone else to meet you and grow and learn and heal with you. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Tiffany. This has been a real pleasure and a privilege. Thank you so much.